Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to talk about that My Hero Academia episode. Holy moly, man, holy moly. Did you see that? Oh my gosh, Ida, wow, that was so fast, wow. People were telling me, because I did not look at the previews, people were telling me that this was going to be a really good looking episode. And honestly, dialing it back, I think it definitely does look good. But you can definitely tell the majority of the money got thrown in at the beginning. Mind you, there are still some really pretty scenes later on. I think Juzo looks amazing in this in general, and Todoroki got a really good one too. But really, it's all there on Ida and everything else. It kind of balances out. It's very inconsistent if actually you think about it, right? Like it would be something if you had the entirety of the episode do that, but it's just for the money shots. That said, wow, that was so much. Holy crap. Did Ida deserve that much? Actually, honestly, does Ida deserve that much? I don't know. I feel like Bakugo's going to get his episode next week, and I feel like Bakugo maybe would deserve a little bit more. But, and this was one of the interesting comments during the live stream. I think it might have been Sarge, but one person had said that in the grand scheme of things, that Juzo moment is so short, and it's the moment that they blew up. And it's like, yeah, actually, the Juzo moment, when you look at the manga, it happens so quickly, it's not even worth considering in terms of anything special from the anime to the manga. It's very interesting. I wonder if there's a Juzo fan in the animation staff, but overall, it looked really, really good. However, I do think there are some worthwhile criticisms. When you look at the whole situation there with Ida, while it does look good, it's one of those moments that kind of reminds me of a moment in Season 3, where it's like, yeah, that's so impressive, but in context, this isn't what happened in the manga. In context, this doesn't necessarily make sense. I'm not sure if you guys remember that time that Bakugo was trying to escape from the villains, and he ended up blowing himself so far away that in the actual shot you saw him jumping over multiple buildings. And then once that's over, it's like, oh no, wait, we're still within distance of the villains. That's the problem with this kind of stuff, is you see Ida doing something so amazing. It's like, well, why can't Ida do this all the time? Why can't Bakugo just blow himself across multiple? Why did Bakugo have to get saved if he could quite literally fly over multiple buildings? That's the kind of issue with doing these dramatic scenes. Yeah, these scenes look amazing, but in context, it's like, I have to disregard what I just saw. When I'm looking at this in the screen, I have to tell myself, this is an over-exaggeration, because if this was actually what actually happened, it changes the plot. And the big example is honestly Bakugo's scene back in Season 3, because his scene is nonsensical. You can't have the man jumping over multiple buildings with his feet quite literally almost touching the building's roof, and then have him floating over a crater. That's just not how that works. In the Ida scene, it's not as jarring, although the sheer sense of the speed, that's the interesting thing. The speed is so amazing, and honestly, I want to say, like, Ida can't be that fast. No way is Ida that fast. But if I think about it, the stuff I see later on in Hero Academia, if Ida's this fast, then maybe that stuff from later in the manga makes more sense, because it's like, shit, at this speed, I don't think I would ever expect any Nomu to catch up to Ida, but at the same time, it's like, wow, that is so fast. And I'm looking at the manga here again, just to remind myself. That entire sequence with Juzo lasts for all of 1, 2, 3 pages. Like, quite literally in the manga, it just goes from Ida getting out of the ice to dashing past Juzo once, and then trying to kick Juzo, and Juzo going underneath the water. Compared to what the anime did, the man made a rainbow cross, sort of, and it's like, whoa, how did Juzo even survive? And that's the other thing. Like, honestly, if Ida was moving that quickly and crossing next to Juzo doesn't survive. But then there's also the little stipulation, well, Ida can't control it, right? Yeah, but at the same time, like, He crossed 6 times past Juzo and only didn't manage to get a hit. Come on. Ida's better than that. Later on, Juzo even points it out. Like, Ida, even with bad control, was able to hit him in the face real good. Also, if Ida is... Oh, I got a good shot of Juzo there. If Ida is just flat out breaking ice as he's moving, it's like, whoa, man, come on. This is come on. He should be able to take out Juzo. But again, in the grand scheme of things, it's a situation where, they're making it really overdramatic. They're making it really look good, but in context, it doesn't work. In context, you can never reference this. Like, if the problem here specifically is if you're an anime-only fan and you see what Ida did here, and then you see Ida in the future, and you're like, yo, why isn't Ida doing the same kind of work that he did here? And it does make some things later in the episode, like when Ida's running away from the falling towers. Like, Ida, you went so fast. Is the 10 minutes up? It can't be up. 10 minutes can't be up. Why can't you go faster? Because he was still using his turbo or whatever when he hits Juzo in the face. Or like, Ida, why can't you turned so many times. You were able to make... Even the birds are into it. You were able to make a 6-pointed cross. Well, why aren't you able to turn to the left, right? And that's the big challenge, if you're an anime only, really, is that you can't reference this in the future because this is an over-exaggeration. This is like a child's imagination going in overdrive. That said, the problem that comes out from it is so limited to the anime-only experience. And, when you look at it from the entertainment point of view, this is much more entertaining than what we got in the manga. So, it's always such a mixed bag with these kind of situations. That said, Juzo looked so good in all of this. Also, his engines also looks... That one moment where Ida's engines are in a different color, I'm thinking, like, are we watching a racing anime? At this point, you might as well be. But yeah, man. What a time. Holy... then the other parts of the episode, they're alright compared, but wow, that was just so much more impressive, and it just makes me really happy for Ida that he got it, even though I still think it's like, of all the places to do this, really interesting that you did this here. Now, talking about the episode, we do a lot of things for the episode, and I think one of the important things to talk about in terms of positives for the episode is the emotional undercurrent, because every fight needs to have something of value. And what I mean by that is not just fight choreography, but every fight needs a story. Because if you have fights without stories, you have boring fights, unless you're ramping up the choreography in particular. But there always needs to be something going on in the characters. With this fight, I feel like this fight might have the most emotional subcurrent of the ones so far, because you cover actually quite a few people. On one side, you have Juzo having a great moment and getting his characterization in that he cares about his friends. And it's like, okay, this is really cute. And it's cool how he references Momo. It's important that he references Momo because the author needs to make more comparison points between Juzo and Momo to kind of differentiate them. And Juzo's inspired, like, well, Momo was able to do something even though she went down. And it's like, Juzo, I get it. Your quirk makes it hard because if you fall unconscious, everything goes back to normal. But at the same time, like, you know what? Good on you. Like, Juzo legitimately left a parting gift, so good on him for being inspired to do that. Anyway, sorry about that. I had to go take care of the birds. But going back to this, I lost where I was. But I was speaking of the emotional subcurrents. Here you have Ida and Shoto really taking the majority of it, and I guess Tetsu does get some pretty good rhetoric. But with Ida and Shoto, I think it's cool to see Ida learning from his lessons, and in this case you have him referencing Stain, and that being the motivation to why he chooses to save Shoto as opposed to taking down the villains. And I think it makes sense in context, and everything about Ida that you see here is paying homage to the fact that Ida has grown past who he was. And the episode makes it very clear with the way he references his brother, what would his brother do, and then also him making his choices towards the end there. I think Ida has shown his growth. On Shoto's side, you have some interesting introspection from Shoto, with Shoto saying that he unconsciously uses his eyesight, and you have Shoto embracing a traumatic part of his childhood and unlocking ridiculous amount of flame. So when it comes to the characters, what you have here with Ida is showing off the fruits of his labors. He's showing off the character that he's become. Ida has already had the majority of his his character development happen before, and here is the product of the development. If you contrast that to Shoto, you see that Shoto right now is resolving a problem in real time. He's resolving his connection to Endeavor, and when you have All Might saying like he's using Endeavor's flame, that's Shoto taking another step forward into accepting his power as his own. Mind you, it is a little bit of a rehash. Like, Shoto is revisiting his problems. In the grand scheme of things, I think that is reasonable. People don't just get over their problems. Mind you, you can make an argument like in a story, you want to have more streamlined experiences. But I think, you know, Hero Academia gets fast-paced in other places. I think it's fine to have Shoto still stuck on Endeavor. It's a very prominent storyline in Hero Academia. That's why I don't think there's anything wrong with just dwelling in it for a little bit longer. I can see, however, how that might bother some people. Overall, when it comes to the emotional hooks that make this fight more than just a fight, we have demonstration of character when it comes to Tetsu, Juzo, and Ida, and then you have real-time development for Shoto. Now, I did make other little notes because I had to try and keep track of the episode. My first note was Ida is crazy, and that is, of course, in reference to that first little part. After that, we had Ojiro versus Spinny. And, you know, Ojiro in this episode and in this chapters that this was adapted from, I feel for him, man. I think Ojiro did a good job. I think Ojiro was doing his best. And, you know, Jiro can go and make fun of Ojiro, calling him ordinary. Like, I'm not sure if you noticed, but the gimmick here is that Ojiro is ordinary. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, yo, this guy has some good choreography. What are you talking about? This guy's choreography was so good. Did you see the way he was moving around in a 3D environment? Come on. Nah, man. You could... This is just one of those things. Like, my sensibilities, like watching DBZ and seeing the general just hand-to-hand combat, or even watching like hand-to-hand combat in Naruto. I wish we had more of Ojiro fights. I wish we had more just hardcore 3D maneuvering in a cramped environment like that. It's cool. Ojiro has legitimate skill, and then later on, when the man uses Swamp Tail, it's like, bruh, whoa, holy moly, man, that was so good, Ojiro. Your tail can break cement. And actually, I'm really wondering, I don't recall that Swamp Tail thingamabob happening in the manga. Oh, never mind. Found it. It did happen in the manga. It's just the anime made it look so much more impressive. Honestly, this is what happens, right? In the manga, Ojiro might look super ordinary, but when you actually have the follow-through in the choreography, Ojiro looks a lot more visually impressive. And I know, you know, he's not flashy. But you know what? Jiro is not flashy. Ojiro is much more flashy when you actually come into the animation, because what does Jiro really do, right? She sends sound waves out. Wow. So fun. Sound waves. Most time in anime, a sound wave is just a little bit of white, like a white streak going across the screen, and then something breaks. Meanwhile, you see Ojiro jumping around the whole place like a badass. Come on, man. Ojiro is amazing in this one. I really feel bad for him, but the gimmicks were pretty okay. Again, with the whole fist of the tail, swamp, smack, spin, the anime did really good in making that look really impressive. I thought that was really good. Speaking of differences, though, and this is going to be something where it happens later in the episode, but the manga did something relatively annoying in that the Ojiro sequence with Pony and all them happens out of sequence. In the manga, what they had done was they showed Juzo showing up to ambush Ojiro and Shoji, and then they jumped to Juzo attacking Shoto, right? And then you had Momo giving the flashback of, oh, hey, this is how Juzo ended up getting to ended up getting to Shoto and Ida so quickly. So it's an interesting technique when you look at the manga. When you look at the manga, it's entirely dictated by what the author thought was going to be a more exciting cliffhanger. And then you had Momo fill in the gaps afterward. But with the anime, you don't need to do that. In the anime, because you're adapting everything in one go, if you were to adapt the things in the order that the author did it, it would just be awkward. Again, the reason this difference exists is because the manga specifically is trying to be popular every week. The anime doesn't need to do that. And legitimately, it is interesting to see when these kind of differences occur, because it's in these differences where you can tell that well, when it comes to the manga, they are doing things optimized for a very particular style of storytelling. Anyway, going back in sequence here, we had Shoto versus Tetsu, and this is a thing in the manga that I always harped on, but Tetsu turns red, and that iron goes red at 460 degrees Celsius. And I know he's steel, but let's just start with iron. Oh, I just confirmed. Steel goes red at 460 degrees Celsius as well. So same temperature. The reason I brought that up initially was just the way that Shoto gets touched in this episode just terrified me. Because it's like, bruh, man, come on. 460 degrees touching his skin? And mind you, the manga and the anime do show a little bit of smoke coming out of Shoto's skin, but it's like, bruh, come on, man. Come on. Good on Shoto for being able to withstand it, and it makes sense. Like, Shoto does light his body on fire, and I mean, Shoto's not Dobby who burns himself. So, good. You can make it make sense, but it's like, whenever I see Tetsu touch Shoto, it's like, oh god, man, I've been burned before, and that's why no. Anyway, after that we get the Shoto trauma flashback, which is just building up to Shoto again reclaiming himself. Then we move into Pony v Shoji, which I found kind of depressing. Specifically, it's where Pony goes out of her way to say that she ignores the octopus in the exhibits because she doesn't like them, and then Shoji saying, I'm used to being feared. And I'm just thinking, that sucks. Shoji, the reason he wears a mask is he scares little kids, and it's like, I don't think this is a good thing. There's a lot of people with a lot of different mutant shapes in the world, and Shoji's the one who has to wear a mask. I'm looking at Koda, and Koda looks significantly more scary. I mean, what is even going on with his face, man? Like, come on. And Shoji's the scary one? Come on. I feel bad for him. Like, this episode was really just feel bad for Shoji, especially when you can tell when they did a little thing with his hand in frustration. It's unfortunate. So, I like Pony. I love Pony even. But that was mean. That was mean. Come on. You don't have to say out loud that I'm scared of octopus and have Shoji say I'm used to being scared. Or sorry, I'm used to being feared. Like, come on. That was so depressing. Anyway, Pony, I think, looked really good. I do think Pony has like a really awkward quirk just with the shape of it, but she makes it look good. That one moment where you had her just flying away, skating on her horns, I thought was a pretty creative way of using her quirk. Kind of channels that Tokoyami energy. But yeah, I think Pony did really well, all things considered. And we're not even talking about what she did at the end. Let's see. After that, I have notes that it was great that Juzo got his moment, and I also acknowledged Ida. And at that point, I'll say, yeah, it was really great that Ida was acknowledged. One thing that you'll notice here is that Juzo ends up doing the same thing that Momo did, in that Juzo didn't extrapolate properly for the growth of another person's quirk. And it's actually a really interesting question. Why is it that people are being caught off guard by people improving their quirks? I mean, when you think about it, it's strange. You know that people can improve their quirks because you're in a class with people who improve their quirks, and yet they keep getting caught off guard. Now, what's interesting here is that when it comes to Juzo and Momo, maybe they're in a position where their increments aren't, or like their improvements aren't that big. Because if you think about it, this is like what All Might said to Bakugo. Bakugo's at level 50 and Izuku's at level 1. It makes a lot of sense that Izuku's going to grow a lot faster than Bakugo will at level 50 if you're looking at game terms. So maybe that's part of the thing that's going on here. You have Momo and Juzo who come in as recommendation students, and maybe they're already at the top of the cutting edge when it comes to their quirks. Like with Momo, she's working on efficiency, and Juzo, who knows what he's working on. When you look at it like that, maybe they are more biased to not extrapolating properly because of that nature. But at the same time, like from a narrative technique, underestimating someone's quirk is just an easy way to get in trouble. And to My Hero Academia's credit and maybe criticism, the author does like using the underestimation of quirks and the capability of quirks as something that causes the plot to happen. So when you have that moment and you go into that final moment in the hospital or in the infirmary, where the three are talking to each other and they're like, yeah, we'll fight you again. It's like, that's heartwarming. It makes you think, yeah, this is the best part about this arc. It's a peaceful arc where the kids can afford to fail and say, I'll do better next time without any serious ramifications. I think it was a wonderful way to end off the episode. And then, of course, you have the setup for Bakugo and you have that really nice shot of Setsuna. Overall, I can't wait for next week. Next week is going to be so good. And I come out of this episode feeling really good about it. It doesn't have as many things that I feel I need to criticize as last time, mostly because the propaganda stops. Here, you're not dealing with propaganda anymore. You're just kind of seeing the fight unfold. And also with the visuals. The visuals do make it a lot more interesting to look at. Overall, I think a really fun episode of Hero Academia. Because I don't really have that many criticism points, and because I think the episode improved on the manga in more ways than one, like with the timeline and also with depiction of damage and depiction of cool stuff, and it wasn't as rushed as in the manga, I can't really give it, if I was to give it a rating, too low. I feel that these... I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, and I'm taking off the 1 point because specifically with that scene at the beginning, it does cause confusion within the fan base when it comes specifically to anime onlys, because if they look at that, it's hard to apply common sense, or it's hard to apply the regular sense as to how fast Ida actually is and extrapolate it to the future using that scene as reference. So that kind of scene just throws things out of whack. And it's the same criticism I have for the Bakugo scene from Season 3. It's cool to look at, but you have to take it with a grain of salt and say, this is not actually Ida's capabilities. Or maybe they are, but for that, I give it a 9 out of 10. Especially when you look at the other parts of the episode, though. The other really pretty scenes don't challenge your suspension of disbelief all that much. And they don't require that little asterisk. So... it's not like it's impossible to make something beautiful that also makes sense. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought down below. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.